If you're looking at starting a podcast and you want high quality voice audio as well as high quality audio components, this is the video for you. If you are on a budget, I covered a cheap, inexpensive setup. I'll leave a link up in the cards and you can go through and check out that video. This video will be aimed at people who want to get more serious about the components, the audio quality, and have a high quality setup that will stand the test of time. Let's get into it. So there's 3 or 4 microphones that I would highly recommend if you're going to go for this particular setup. They're microphones that I own personally and they're sitting here on the table. So this first one is a Rode NT1 microphone. I've used this for all of my albums over the years and it's great for any type of voice application. You can also find this on the In the Blues podcast as well. This was our 3rd microphone for a while before I migrated over to all of these. So I'm using right now a Rode Procaster, which is a dynamic microphone. So there are some pros and cons of both of these microphones. The NT1, some of its pros are it's really easy to get a great sound. You just plug it in, turn phantom power on your desk and you're good to go. You don't need anything special to sort of boost the audio signal. But in this particular setup, I'm going to recommend something that will do that anyway. So we'll get to that in just a moment. Some of the downsides of this though is it will pick up more ambient noise. If you've got a dog barking outside or something like that, it will hear everything. Now in terms of the Rode Procaster, this is a dynamic microphone. It means that it's not going to pick up a lot of sound anywhere from other than the front. It will get a little bit from the sides, but nowhere near as much as a condenser microphone. But some of the downsides of this is the fact that you need to really crank the gain up so much to get any sort of signal out of this, which is also a good thing in a way, but you need something in between this and a regular sound card to get the most out of it, which is part of this particular setup. It's why I'm kind of recommending these with this particular rig. This 3rd microphone in the list is the most budget of the 3. This is the Rode PodMic. This is a proper podcasting microphone and it's a dynamic microphone, much like the Procaster as well. So you still need to push up the gain a little bit more as well. But overall, this will get you some great results as well. And it definitely looks more the part if you're filming your podcast and say something like an SM58. If you're not too worried about the visuals, then you won't care. All the links to this stuff will be in the description below. One of the things in common with a lot of podcasting microphones, whether it's the Rode Procaster, the PodMic, the Shure SM7B, or any of the other ones, is the fact you need something in between this and the sound card to boost up the gain. And that's where all of this stuff comes in back here. We're going to take a look at this up close. This is the DBX286S microphone preamp and processor. What you get with this particular unit is everything to get you going if you're on your own. Now, if you're not on your own and you have a 2-person or 3-person podcast, you might need multiples of these racks, which I'm going to get to in just a moment, so don't stress about that. But if you are on your own, just go ahead and get a DBX286S. I'll leave some links down below, but what you're getting is the ability to crank up the preamp to the point where you're not going to get any noise, but it's actually going to power the Rode Procaster or PodMic or SM7B without any issues at all. This is a much better solution and a more flexible solution than buying something like the Cloud Lifter. If you don't know what that is, it's just a piece that sits in between your microphone and your cable to boost the gain of the microphone. Very sort of bland, but it works. This will give you so much more enhancement to your voice. We'll hear this coming up at the end of the video. One of the cool things about the DBX286S is we also get a compressor. Over here we have a de-esser, and what this will do, you can fine tune the top end or the high frequencies so the S words, or what they call the sibilance, isn't as big of a problem when you're listening to it as a listener. Now, you might not think everyone needs this, and they might not either, right? But some people have a sort of a more prominent sort of sibilance in their speech, so anyone who has that, you can turn the threshold and the frequency up. You just don't want to turn the threshold up too much, otherwise it could sound like you actually have a speech impediment. 2 of my favorite things about this unit, other than the fact that it just works and it's extremely functional, is the enhancer. This is a 2-band EQ. We get the LF detail, which is like a bass boost, and we also get the HF detail, which is the high frequencies. So high frequencies and low frequencies. You don't need a lot of this, but if you do want to crank up, say, the low end, you're more than welcome to give it a shot. You'll get some pretty huge results with this 2-band EQ. It saves you having to get a rack unit or anything just for the EQ. Another great feature is we have an expander and gate built into the 286S. Now, if you've got a lot of background noise, you might opt to use the gate control. Now, what that will do, it will hard mute the signal anytime you're not talking, depending on where you have the threshold amount. This is great if someone's like mowing the lawn outside or whatever the case may be. So a gate will only be really useful for those kind of situations. I would avoid it otherwise and just use the expander mode, which doesn't completely mute the signal. It sounds a lot more natural. And for those who are wondering what's best, if you've got a two-person podcast, use expander mode. It makes it sound like, you know, you're in the room with the people as opposed to it being too overly processed. On the end of the 286S, we have an output control. This is just basically like the master volume out to your audio interface. One of the clear limitations of the DBX 286S is it's great for people who are on their own, but as soon as you have someone else over and say you've bought the same microphone as well using another Rode Procaster or a SM7B, you're gonna need a second one of these for the audios to match, right? So it starts to add up. If you wanna save some bucks and still get some really great sound quality, go for the Composer Pro XL and Behringer Ultra Gain Pro combo. I recently did a video on these compared to each other as well, and this stacks up very, very favorably in my opinion. So what you're getting just on one side here is everything that you get on the DBX 286S, and then you get a second channel. So it's a dual microphone preamp on the bottom, being that it's the Ultra Gain Pro, that's the mic preamp. And then on the top here, we're getting all basically the processing that we get in this unit, actually in the Behringer. And it's actually got some more options on it as well, but the one thing that it does lack is the 2-band EQ from the 286S. That might be a deal breaker for some people. The 2-band EQ in the DBX just really does sound like $1,000,000. Like I said, I'll leave links to all this stuff below. It's stuff that I use personally. If I'm on my own, I use the DBX 286S. If I have my friend over and we're doing a dual person podcast, I have these just set up and it works $1,000,000. I've never had anyone complain about the audio. Now, in terms of the audio interfaces, what do I recommend? It really depends on what you need, but I'm a big fan of the Steinberg UR22 MK2 sound cards. I actually have two of these, and you might be saying, well, why do you have two? I have one on my Mac, which I do my voiceover stuff for a lot of my YouTube videos on my main channel. Then I have another one hooked up to my PC that I use with a lot of other stuff, including some of this gear when it's in the other room as well. So instead of just having to unplug these things and plug them back in and move them around all the time, having one of each is great. In today's day and age, it really doesn't matter which audio interface you go for, they're all gonna do a pretty good job. I actually proved this on another video, testing out sound cards of all different prices. The audio difference was so minimal. And if you're using a rig like this, like the DBX going into something like this, it's gonna sound great. The reason I went for the UR22 MK2s is for a couple of reasons actually. I'll show you up close. There's a few reasons why I like the Steinberg UR22 MK2 in particular. And the reason is you get two microphone inputs over here that also support the TRS sort of jack inputs on the inside of those as well. So if you've got a single person podcast, you can just use channel one. If you've got a dual person podcast and you want to hook up, say, the composer to both channels, you can run the second one into here and record two lines of audio simultaneously. Now, if you're looking for something that will do 4 or more, I'll also leave some links in the description below of stuff that I've used personally and tested over the years. Another really cool feature as well, if you're also into recording your own music, is the fact that we get a sort of blend between the input signal and the DAW signal over here. So if you're playing back, you can basically get the mix between what you're hearing in real time, like as in what you're recording through the microphone or guitar or whatever, and then what you're getting back by just turning this control over here. I think that's really great. This has phantom power on the back as well, so we have no problems there, and we just hook it up via a generic USB cable that comes with the actual unit. So if you're the only person doing the podcast, you can absolutely use the headphone output on the front of the Steinberg UR22 MK2. This will work a treat, but if you're in a two-person setup, what I would recommend is getting one of these. This is a headphone preamp. You can get rack unit versions of this. This particular one I must have had for about 12 years now, and it's still going strong. It comes with its own power supply, and what this will do, you'll go from the headphone output on the Steinberg unit into this, and then you've got 4 independent volume controls for each of the headphones that you can hook in on the back. One of these is the input, and then you get 4 actual outputs that will work for headphones. This is a really great unit. These aren't expensive. I highly recommend buying one of these. This will give you more volume as well as what you'll get just out of this as well. In my experience, this just pushes, I guess, less expensive headphones better than the unit just on its own. So if you don't have the best headphones, I would highly recommend getting something like this. Or if you're in a two-person or more setup, you get 4 channels independently you can select how much volume you want going to each of them. Now, in terms of headphones, there's a million different options out there. I actually took a chance on these AKG K52s. One of the great things about them is how well they fit over your ear. Your ear sort of fits within the pads, but there's one downside. They suck, so don't buy them. Get them as a last option only. What I can recommend though are these. These are the ATH M20X from Audio-Technica. These are much better. These sort of sit on your ear. It kind of blocks out a little bit more sound as well, which is a good thing as well, but they sound so much better, especially for voice application. You get more bass response. You can turn them up louder without them distorting. Those AKGs, they were about half the price, not even. They were actually quite close to the price of these, maybe about 20% cheaper. These absolutely obliterate the AKG. So go for these Audio-Technicas. Links will be below. Now, in terms of microphone stands, which one will work best for you is dependent on what kind of table you have. Now, being that I'm on a glass table, I actually also own a couple of the boom arms that have that spring-loaded mechanism as well. They're actually locked down on my wooden desks right now because they don't work that well on a glass table. So I would recommend something like this, which just sits on the table as opposed to sort of having to lock on with a screw mechanism. So it's not going to damage your table. They have rubber feet on the bottom as well. They're adjustable also in terms of height as well, like this, so you can bring them up and down. Each of the microphones listed in this video also come with their own little microphone mount that you can basically screw down into the microphone stand, making it very easy to just, take it on and off and move it around as you so choose. Now, in terms of posture and all that, when you're sitting, I don't have any real problem with using these now. I was a big fan of the boom arms, but these are just so much more practical for my particular sort of situation, and I would highly recommend these if you don't want to have to sort of screw and unscrew boom arms into the desk. Now, if you want to go for that, I'll leave some links to some of the screw arms that I recommend as well, and I would opt to go for some of the better ones over some of the cheaper ones. And now over to the all-important audio test, and being that I recommended 3 different microphones, you're going to hear them all in this particular video using the same signal chain. So I'm going out from this Rode Procaster into the DBX286S. I'm processing the sound with a little bit of compression, a little bit of that magical 2-band EQ, a hint of de-esser, and then it's going out into the Steinberg UR22 MK2 sound card being recorded in my Mac using Final Cut. Now, the audio that you're hearing is completely unprocessed on the computer. So you're about to hear the dry signal just with a boost in volume in post, and that is it. That's how I like to record. It saves all the post-production time. Sure, you can get a lot of enhancements just in post, but this saves a whole lot of time having the hardware do the work in the first place. So this is how it sounds. Over to the PodMic. And now over to the Rode Pod microphone. This is a great sounding dynamic and directional microphone. So much like the Procaster, if someone else is in the room, you've got another one set up, say, facing the opposite way, it's not going to pick up much of the other person. Have a look at this. So if I was to talk off the microphone, you're probably going to see that it's not going to pick up as much as my voice. And this is what you want, especially in a 2-person setup. I was using the Procaster and the PodMic for a while, as well as the next microphone until I got 2 of these and 1 of these, and my setup's pretty much complete now if I've got 2 or 3 people in the room. Let's go over to the last microphone. And now over to the third of the 3 microphones. This is the Rode NT1 mic. I've used this for so many vocal recordings and podcasts over the years. Now, I don't usually use it in a room like this unless I have no other option, because a lot of birds will be flying outside here, and this will pick up a lot more noise coming from everywhere. Even if I was to be on this side of the mic, you can still hear it. If I was to be on this side of the mic and even further around, you're still going to hear it. So if there's someone else in the room, you can sometimes get some reflections and delays coming into the mic. And my kitchen is just there, and I can hear reflections coming off. Now, if I'm using this in my other studio where I shoot the majority of my guitar videos, that room's a lot less acoustic, which means this microphone works fine. I don't really have any of those inherent reflection issues. You don't need to have a treated room to use a condenser microphone, but my suggestion is probably don't use it anywhere near the kitchen. That would be my tip. But this just sounds fantastic to my ear. Coming through the headphones, I can hear that it just sounds really nice. Let me know which one you like best and why in the comments below. Thanks for watching, folks. My name's Shane. If you did find this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. I appreciate that. If you have a specific question about something in this video, please comment below. I check the comments all the time and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Now, I'll also leave links to Sweetwater and B&H in the description below. They give me a small kickback at no extra charge to you, so if you choose to use those, they help support the channel. Thank you so much. Now, this particular setup will give you some great results, but if you choose to, say, pick a different sound card, whether it be a Focusrite or a Mode 2, it's not really going to change anything in particular. If you choose something drastically different, like a very different microphone or the audio preamp / processor, that's going to drastically change the results. So if you like what you heard in this video, choose the same microphone, get the DBX or get the Behringer. Now, the Behringer unit I've also done a review on recently. If you want to hear that, you can check out this particular A/B test that I did up here, and you can see which one you like the best up there. But overall, this is a really great functional setup that I know that works, and I've used it on countless podcasts here for my main channel on In the Blues, and I've also used it for the Geeky Nerdy Techie channel as well. So please let me know what you think. Thanks again for watching. My name's Shane. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'll catch you soon. See ya.